On a chilly autumn day, a faint cry breaks the silence. Beneath a pile of fallen leaves, a bruised mother cat clings to life, shielding her tiny kittens from the cold. Nearby, an elderly woman unknowingly moves closer to their hidden struggle. Will these two worlds collide in time, or will fate take its course? Autumn had wrapped the countryside in a golden cloak, leaves crunching softly beneath Eleanor Hawthorne's feet. At 75, this childless widow found solace in her morning walks, a ritual that broke the monotony of her solitude. This particular morning, the crisp air carried a promise of change, a gentle breeze caressing her face wrinkled by the years. As Eleanor rounded a familiar bend bordered by peaceful fields, a furtive movement caught her eye. Intrigued, she approached a thicket of tall grass. Her heart clenched at the sight before her. A cat, its body battered, lay on the cold ground. Around it, 3 tiny kittens mewed pitifully, huddling against their injured mother. The scene was heartrending. The cat, clearly the victim of a road accident, breathed with difficulty. Her eyes, though clouded with pain, shone with fierce determination. Eleanor knelt, her trembling fingers gently brushing the animal's soiled fur. "Oh, you poor dear," she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. The kittens, barely a few days old, desperately tried to protect their mother. Their small voices, though weak, seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 cries. They gently nudged their mother's head, as if begging her to stay, their mewling resonating with a helplessness that broke Eleanor's heart. Time was of the essence. Eleanor glanced around, her mind racing. There was no one else in sight. It was just her, this dying mother, and her defenseless kittens. She had to act, and quickly. But what could she do? At 75, her body wasn't what it used to be, and there was no veterinarian nearby. It would take a miracle to save this poor creature, yet something stirred deep within her. Despite her age and her own limitations, Eleanor couldn't turn her back. This mother's love was too strong, too pure to let her die here, on the roadside, alone. Carefully, she gathered the kittens in the folds of her coat, their tiny bodies trembling with fear. "It's going to be all right," she murmured, her voice quavering. "We'll find you help." She cast one last glance at the cat, motionless but with eyes still filled with determination. Eleanor knew she couldn't move her, not in this state. If she did, it could end her life on the spot. But she couldn't leave her there either. Taking a deep breath, she pulled out her phone and dialed the emergency number of the local shelter where she had volunteered years ago. Her voice shook as she explained the situation, and within minutes, help was on the way. She knew time was of the essence, but as she sat next to the cat, gently stroking her fur, she whispered words of comfort. "Hold on, Mama. They're coming. Just hold on a little longer." The minutes felt like hours, but finally the sound of a van broke the silence. A team of rescuers rushed over, quickly assessing the situation. Eleanor held her breath as they carefully lifted the cat onto a stretcher. Her body was limp, but her eyes still shone with that unwavering love, watching her kittens placed beside her, safe in a small carrier. As the rescue van sped away, taking the little family to the nearest clinic, Eleanor stood there for a moment, her heart heavy but full of hope. She had done all she could. The rest depended on fate, or perhaps on the strength of a mother's love. Back at home that evening, the image of the cat's fierce love wouldn't leave Eleanor's mind. She couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed. The next morning, she called the clinic, her heart pounding, to ask for news. The voice on the other end paused, then spoke softly. "She's stable, but it's still uncertain. It's the kittens that saved her. She's holding on, Miss Hawthorne. She's holding on because of them." Eleanor smiled through her tears. Sometimes it seemed love was the most powerful medicine of all. The days that followed were a trial for Eleanor. Each morning she woke with a single thought in her mind: the cat and her kittens. She called the clinic, her heart racing with each ring. The news was always the same. The mother was fighting, clinging to life with a tenacity that surprised even the most experienced veterinarians. One morning, as autumn gently gave way to winter, Eleanor made a decision. She could no longer remain passive, waiting for news. She had to act. Donning her warmest coat, she made her way to the veterinary clinic. The antiseptic smell assailed her as soon as she stepped through the doors. The staff, surprised to see this elderly lady arrive so early, welcomed her kindly. Eleanor explained her situation, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. The head veterinarian, touched by her story, agreed to take her to see the feline family. In a quiet room lit by the soft morning light, Eleanor finally saw the cat and her kittens. The mother, though still weak, had regained some color. Her wounds, carefully bandaged, were slowly healing. But what struck Eleanor most was the animal's gaze. Those eyes, which she had seen filled with pain and fear on the roadside, now shone with a glimmer of hope and love. The kittens, now more vigorous, cuddled against their mother, nursing eagerly. The scene was so moving that Eleanor felt her eyes mist over. The veterinarian explained that the presence of the little ones had played a crucial role in the mother's recovery. Their mutual love was like a balm, healing wounds more effectively than any medicine. From that day on, Eleanor became a regular visitor to the clinic. She spent hours sitting with the little family, talking to them softly, petting them tenderly. The staff, touched by her dedication, even allowed her to participate in their daily care. As the weeks passed, a change came over Eleanor. The loneliness that had long inhabited her began to fade. She felt useful, needed. The cat and her kittens had given her a purpose, a reason to wake up each morning with enthusiasm. However, a new worry soon clouded her thoughts. What would become of this little family once they recovered? The clinic couldn't keep them indefinitely, and the idea that they might end up on the streets was unbearable to her. Determined, Eleanor embarked on a quest to find them a loving home. She contacted associations, talked to her neighbors, placed ads. But finding someone willing to adopt a mother and her 3 kittens proved more difficult than expected. Days passed and the date for their release from the clinic approached. Eleanor felt anxiety rising within her. She couldn't bear the thought of abandoning these beings who had come to mean so much to her in recent weeks. One evening, as she returned home after another fruitless day of searching, a crazy idea crossed her mind. What if she adopted them herself? The idea made her smile at first. Her, at 75, becoming a surrogate mother to a family of cats? It was absurd. And yet, if this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Subscribe now to join our community of animal lovers. Together, we can make a difference, one paw at a time. Hit that subscribe button and be part of more heartwarming tales of hope, love, and second chances. That night, Eleanor didn't sleep. She thought, weighed the pros and cons. By morning, her decision was made. She returned to the clinic, her heart pounding, to announce her decision. The news was greeted with joy by the clinic staff. The head veterinarian, moved, hugged Eleanor, assuring her she had made the right choice. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Eleanor prepared her house to welcome her new companions. She bought baskets, toys, food. Her neighbors, touched by her story, came to help her set up a comfortable space for the little family. Finally, the big day arrived. Eleanor, nervous but determined, went to the clinic to bring the cat and her kittens home. The car ride was filled with emotion, the cat purring softly in her carrier, as if to reassure her benefactor. As Eleanor crossed the threshold of her home, she felt as if she were entering it for the first time in years. The presence of these small creatures filled the space with a new warmth, chasing away the last shadows of loneliness. The weeks that followed were a true learning experience for Eleanor. She discovered the joys and challenges of caring for a family of cats. The nights were sometimes short, the days well-filled, but her heart overflowed with love and gratitude. The cat, whom she had named Hope, was fully recovering from her injuries. Her kittens, christened Faith, Love, and Courage, were growing by leaps and bounds, filling the house with their playful antics and joyful meows. One day, as she watched Hope and her little ones cuddled together on the couch, Eleanor realized how much her life had changed. She, who thought she had lived through everything, seen it all, was discovering a new chapter in her existence filled with love and tenderness. This experience awakened in her a passion she thought had long been extinguished. She remembered the years when, with her late husband, she had volunteered at an animal shelter. These memories, once painful, now appeared to her as a source of inspiration. Emboldened by this new energy, Eleanor decided to return to service. She contacted the local shelter, offering her help. Her experience and dedication were welcomed with open arms. Now her days were filled with new meaning. In the mornings, she tended to Hope and her kittens, lavishing them with care and affection. In the afternoons, she went to the shelter, where she shared her love and experience with other animals in need. Her house, once silent, now resonated with joyful meows and the sound of little paws scampering down the hallways. Her neighbors, touched by her story, often came to visit, bringing treats for the cats and enjoying the warmth of this newly animated home. Eleanor had found a new family, not only in Hope and her kittens, but also in the community that had formed around her. She realized that love, in all its forms, had the power to transform lives, heal wounds, and create miracles. Each evening before going to bed, she would look at Hope and her little ones, snuggled in their basket. She thought back to that autumn day when she had found a dying cat on the roadside. What could have been a tragedy had transformed into a beautiful story of love and resilience. Eleanor fell asleep with a light heart, grateful for this second chance that life had offered her. She had learned that love, whether it comes from a human or an animal, had the power to transform darkness into light, loneliness into communion, and despair into hope. Meanwhile, word of Eleanor's inspiring story began to spread throughout the community. Local news outlets caught wind of the tale, and soon a reporter from the town's newspaper arrived at her doorstep, eager to share her story with a wider audience. Initially hesitant, Eleanor agreed to the interview, hoping that her experience might inspire others to open their hearts to animals in need. As she recounted her tale, the reporter was visibly moved, scribbling furiously in his notebook to capture every detail. The article, published the following Sunday, painted a vivid picture of Eleanor's journey from loneliness to purpose. It highlighted the transformative power of compassion and the unexpected joy that can come from helping others even when they have 4 legs and a tail. The response to the article was overwhelming. Eleanor's phone began ringing off the hook with calls from people touched by her story. Some offered to donate supplies for her cats, while others inquired about volunteering at the shelter themselves. Amidst this whirlwind of attention, Eleanor remained grounded, focusing on the daily care of Hope and her kittens. The little family continued to thrive, growing stronger and more playful with each passing day. As the kittens reached the age of adoption, Eleanor faced a bittersweet decision. While she had grown deeply attached to all 3, she knew that her small home and advancing age might make it challenging to care for 4 cats in the long term. After much contemplation, Eleanor decided to keep Hope and one of the kittens, while finding loving homes for the other 2. The shelter where she volunteered helped her screen potential adopters, ensuring that faith and love would go to families who would cherish them as much as she did. The day of separation was emotional, but Eleanor found solace in knowing that she had given these little ones a chance at life and love. She made the new families promise to keep in touch and send regular updates. With Hope and Courage now permanent residents of her home, Eleanor settled into a new routine. Her days were filled with the gentle purring of her feline companions, volunteer work at the shelter, and frequent visits from neighbors who had become dear friends. Eleanor's story continued to inspire others. The shelter saw an uptick in adoptions and volunteers, with many citing her tale as their motivation. Local schools invited her to speak about animal welfare and the importance of compassion, and Eleanor found herself embracing this new role as an advocate for abandoned animals. One crisp autumn morning, almost a year to the day since she had found Hope, Eleanor received an unexpected visitor. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, stood on her doorstep, clutching a hand-drawn picture of a cat that bore a striking resemblance to Hope. The girl, introducing herself as Lily, explained that she had heard Eleanor's story at school and had been so moved that she had convinced her parents to adopt a cat from the shelter. She wanted to thank Eleanor for inspiring her family to open their home to a furry friend in need. Touched beyond words, Eleanor invited Lily in for cookies and milk. As they sat in the living room, Hope and Courage curled up contentedly nearby, Eleanor listened to Lily's enthusiastic chatter about her new pet and her dreams of becoming a veterinarian someday. In that moment, Eleanor felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She realized that her act of kindness had set off a chain reaction of compassion, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. The loneliness that had once defined her existence now seemed like a distant memory. As the seasons changed and years passed, Eleanor's home remained a haven of love and warmth. Hope, though graying around the whiskers, continued to be a source of comfort and companionship. Courage, now a handsome adult cat, had inherited his mother's gentle nature and often curled up in Eleanor's lap during her afternoon reading sessions. Eleanor's involvement with the animal shelter grew, and she became a respected figure in the local animal welfare community. Her story continued to inspire, and she found joy in mentoring young volunteers, sharing her experiences and wisdom. The bond she had formed with her neighbors deepened, and her once quiet street became known for its tight-knit community, often gathering for potluck dinners where stories of Hope and her kittens were retold with fondness. On her 80th birthday, Eleanor was surprised by a celebration organized by her friends from the shelter and the neighborhood. As she looked around at the smiling faces, the sound of laughter mingling with the gentle purring of cats, she marveled at how full her life had become. In a quiet moment during the party, Eleanor slipped away to her favorite armchair, Hope and Courage following close behind. As she settled in, her feline companions arranging themselves comfortably around her, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. What had begun as a solitary walk on an autumn morning had blossomed into a life rich with purpose, love, and connection. Eleanor realized that in saving Hope, she had also saved herself, opening her heart to a world of possibilities she had thought long past. As the party continued in the background, Eleanor gently stroked Hope's soft fur, whispering words of gratitude. She knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, she would face them with courage, surrounded by the love of her chosen family, both human and feline. Eleanor's story, born from an act of compassion on a country road, had become a living testament to the power of love and resilience, inspiring all who knew her. And as she sat there, surrounded by the warmth of friendship and the unconditional love of her cats, Eleanor knew that her journey was far from over. There were still more lives to touch, more animals to save, and more love to give. In the years that followed, Eleanor's legacy continued to grow. The local animal shelter, inspired by her dedication, launched a program called Eleanor's Hope, which focused on rescuing and rehabilitating injured strays. The program became a model for other shelters across the state, spreading the ripple effect of Eleanor's compassion even further. Eleanor herself became something of a local celebrity, her gentle wisdom and unwavering commitment to animal welfare earning her the affectionate nickname, the Cat Lady of Maple Street. But to Eleanor, the greatest reward was the knowledge that her story had inspired others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. As she approached her mid-80s, Eleanor began to consider her legacy. With the help of her friends and a local lawyer, she set up a foundation that would ensure the continuation of her work long after she was gone. The foundation would support the shelter, fund veterinary care for strays, and promote education about responsible pet ownership. One warm spring afternoon, as Eleanor sat on her porch swing with Hope dozing in her lap and Courage sprawled at her feet, she spotted a familiar figure walking up her driveway. It was Lily, now a poised young woman in her early 20s, home from her first year of veterinary school. Lily's visit brought Eleanor immense joy. As they chatted, Lily shared her experiences at school and her plans for the future, which included opening a clinic specializing in care for rescued animals. She credited Eleanor's influence for setting her on this path, a revelation that brought tears to the older woman's eyes. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, Eleanor felt a profound sense of peace. She had lived a life filled with more love and purpose than she could have ever imagined on that fateful autumn day years ago. And though she knew her own journey would one day come to an end, she took comfort in knowing that the seeds of compassion she had planted would continue to grow and flourish. That night, as Eleanor prepared for bed, she paused to look at a framed photo on her nightstand. It showed her, surrounded by Hope, Courage, and a group of smiling shelter volunteers. The image captured the essence of her journey from solitude to community, from emptiness to fulfillment. As she drifted off to sleep, Hope curled up beside her and Courage at her feet. Eleanor's last thoughts were of gratitude. Gratitude for the twist of fate that had led her to that roadside, for the resilience of a mother cat fighting for her kittens, and for the endless capacity of the human heart to give and receive love. In our next story, Get ready for an incredible surprise. A dog who becomes the fierce protector of 2 lion cubs. Against all odds, he steps up with courage and loyalty, defying nature itself. Don't miss this heartwarming journey that will change how you see animal bonds forever.